Today, we're going to talk about 4 tips to visualize your goals in 2020.
I am your host, Lia Dunlap, and you are listening to the Oracle on Purpose podcast, where we help intentional leaders clarify their purpose and next steps to create a work and life of significance.
What is visualization anyway? So many coaches and leaders tell their clients or their employees to visualize success, as if it's a concept that's universally understood. What if it's not? What if you've been doing this visualization thing all wrong? Now, first let's talk about what it's not. It's not just passively thinking about a goal or writing them down and reading them aloud or to yourself. That's not it. The power of visualization actually lies in the single-minded focus on the vision, ready, of achieving the result. Achieving the result is the key. So it's also not, solely anyway, a new age Jedi mind trick. Today, many professional athletes credit their visualization process with helping them achieve their desired results and even their world records. In fact, I was reading an article in the New York Times, and they quoted Emily Cook, who's a veteran American aerialist, as saying, you have to smell it, you have to hear it, you have to feel it, everything. The article goes on to say, imagery has seldom been more in evidence than in Sochi, where the starting areas have been full of Olympians going through the motions, figuratively or literally. Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. We're all up there flapping our arms, Cook said. It looks insane, but it works, right? So if it's good enough for a world-class athlete to take on visualization to help them achieve their goals, why wouldn't it be great and good enough for you? So whether that's life goals or business goals, it doesn't really matter. It is a process that you can use anytime, almost anywhere. And really, the ultimate point of doing it isn't just to have a mental, manifestation of it, but to actually have the physical result, right? You're intending to create something, a result from the process. So a lot of times people will think that they meditate on something, and that's similar to visualization. And that's not the case. So that's also not visualization, right? That's letting your mind wander. It's like holding a thought. But there's a little bit different of doing that and actually practicing practical visualization processes. So I want to give you 4 tips for how you can actually proactively use visualization in your planning for 2020, right? So the first step is to properly receive all the benefits of visualization. We must start with the end in mind. As I mentioned earlier, it is about the achievement, right? So what is the desired result? Think about that. Not just the overarching goal, but the specific exact result you're hoping to achieve. And once you're clear and you have a really clear idea of what that result is, then allow yourself to close your eyes and picture the results taking place. Now, don't follow along right now if you're driving, but if you aren't, feel free to think about that. What is one result that you're hoping to have happen in 2020? Close your eyes and think about actually achieving it, right? Not just as if you're seeing it on a picture, but actually having it come to life. So if you are seeking a new contract, for example, from a client, seeing yourself sitting across the counter or across the conference room, handing them a pen and watching them sign on the dotted line, it's really taking it down to the detail of being in the moment of achieving the result, right? So if you're wanting to run a marathon, for example, you can see and visualize yourself crossing the finish line, or better yet, take it one step further. Instead of just crossing the finish line, imagine you've already crossed the finish line and you're hugging your family or your supporters who are on the other side waiting for you, right? So take yourself all the way through the achievement of the result, right? Make it about the achievement, not just the goal itself. So next, the second thing to do is really you must expand your senses. And you kind of heard some hints about that earlier in the comments from Cook about her Olympian visualization process. But go from seeing the results to experiencing the results with all or as many as possible of your senses. So just a moment ago, as I was mentioning, like having that pen and handing it over to the client to have them sign, feel the weight of the pen. Feel the sense of the room, right? So what is the temperature of the space that you're in? Is it a crisp fall day or a warm summer night? Is the room air conditioned or full of body heat from the crowds of people and lights on stage? What does it feel like to be in that space? What ambient noises are floating around you? So it could be the hum of equipment outside, the sound of traffic, the pounding of surf on the sand. Any of these things, like the more details you can really imagine as you're visualizing, the better. So like, do you taste? Now this is an interesting one because I think oftentimes people forget this sense, but we can be very, what's the word I want to say? We can be very activated by taste, right? Something tastes sour, something tastes sweet. And it can have a visceral reaction for us. So don't forget to think about that. Like, do you taste the salt air? Maybe the cold beer or warm tea, or maybe the bubbles of the champagne, right? So what is all of that, like the flavor of the experience as well? What about your body? Does your body relax? Does it feel relaxed in that scene of achievement? Or is it energized? Are you really pumped up? Or are you muscle strained from that last mile? Think about those senses, right? All of them, as many as you can. The other thing is people don't often think about the smell. Like the smell of salt air, for example, or plumeria flower, or fresh cut grass, or ink from that pen, right? So think about as many senses as you can bring into the picture, right? The visualization, the better. So make it multi-sensory. Now next, it's time to get physical. So I love this piece because it's something that I learned, many moons ago. So I was a teenager. And so when I was younger, I was a thespian. It's true. I was a member of the theater group in my high school. And I remember how our drama teacher, Kathy Juarez, and she was the director of our shows, she said in one of our very first classes that we took, the secret to memorizing your lines is movement. The secret to memorizing your lines is movement. See, she knew that if we got up and walked the stage while practicing our lines, that kinesthetic connection to the words would help us remember the lines when we got back on stage again. And sure enough, even as I moved on in life, if I had to memorize a speech or talk or a workshop, I would do so standing up and kind of walking in my living room or my office space. And it totally worked. It worked because it created that multi-dimensional experience of taking those words and actually implanting them in my brain and my memory. So if you have a clear idea of the result and you've tapped into the senses, right? Remember getting all of your essential experiences there of that experience. And the next thing you want to do is walk through the process using your body and the space around you. So remember in that comment earlier about the Olympians, she said they were on the getting ready on the stand and flapping their wings and moving their bodies the way that they were going to have to move them when they got across the starting gate. So what are the things that you'll have to do with your body during that experience, right? So can you imagine as you're visualizing what that looks like? So just think about it this way. Let's say you take a step through the doorway of that new classroom or the new home, right? Imagine yourself taking that step, clicking the key, pushing the door open, and taking that first step inside, right? While you're visualizing what it looks like. Is it a new home? Does it smell like the new home smell? Kind of like a new car, I guess, right? Or, if you want to think about perhaps the feel of holding the mic in your hands if you're standing on stage, right? Does it feel weighted? Does it feel heavy? How are you holding it when you're talking? And do you feel like you can really move around and talk with the microphone? Like, get yourself into that physical space. You can imagine shaking hands of your new clients or waving to the crowd and taking a bow after delivering your TEDx talk. All of those things, by adding that additional element of being physical, it really does help to seat that in your mind and allow you to really create a much more robust visualization process. Now, the last step, it's going to seem easy, but it's actually one of the hardest steps. So before you click off, stay with me. The last step is this: practice, practice, practice. Visualization is not a one-time thing. You're not going to be able to get results by one time, even in all those things I just gave you, even doing steps 1 through 3 once. That's not enough to really change your mental patterns, right? So the practice of visualizing something over and over again helps to really make that neural pathway, construct that neural pathway. And so it allows you to really have a clear signal that you're sending out to the universe about what you want. So the stronger the practice, the stronger the signal, right? So again, if the whole purpose of doing the visualization is to actually achieve your result, then taking the time to practice is key. So how do you practice? Well, you have to be consistent with your visualizations. So if you've done steps 1 through 3, you want to keep that visualization consistent, right? You want to keep those moments, those touchstones of the experience in your mind. And you want to set aside, time to consciously hold your vision at least once a day. If it's something really big and really important and it's worth visualizing, then at least once a day, take a few moments, it could be a minute or two, to really get into that visualization as much as you can. Now, you can also do it more, right? I'm sure that every one of those athletes, it's a consistent thing. In fact, one of my favorite movies is Cool Runnings, and there's a scene there where Doris, I think it is the bobsled driver, and he's sitting in a bathtub and he's practicing over and they literally have to drag him out to go eat. He's like constantly being in visualization about achieving their result, right? So can you do it too much? I don't know. Do drink, do eat, enjoy your life. But there is always room, if something is really important to you and you really want to make sure that you're achieving it, to keep it in your mind as clearly as possible. So, you can do it several times a day. Now, how long? Like I said, it shouldn't really take more than a minute or two to do your visualization. Here's the key. The reason that is because you're not visualizing the entire day necessarily. You are visualizing that final moment when it has been achieved, that pivotal moment, we should say, when you've actually got your result. So whatever that moment is to you, that's the piece you want to focus on. And honestly, until you get the results, continue to visualize every day, a couple times a day, as many times as you can until the result is achieved. So here's the bonus tip. Always leave space for the universe and or God, whatever you call it, source, to surprise you, right? This is something I tell my clients all the time when we work through my Power Plan program. It's like you're creating these goals, you're creating these visions, you're creating these desires from a part of you that knows, right? Knows that it's something for you. So allow yourself the grace to focus only on the core of that. So what I mean by that is, don't worry so much about the why or the how it's going to happen, and give yourself the grace to allow space for the universe to work its own magic, right? To bring people that you never thought would come up and say or deliver messages or give you the opportunities that you didn't see coming that would get you that result. It's so amazing to me, even, 25 years later, that when I hear of a client going through the Power Plan process and saying, oh my gosh, I had a client, for example, who got a car. Her client bought her a car because her car broke down. And she was just weeks before saying, I don't know what I'm going to do. My car's going to break down. I won't be able to get to work. And so she called them and said, it was a very good client of hers, and said, I can't make it to work. I'm so sorry. My car's broken down and I can't afford to get another one. And he's like, no, we need you. So we're going to buy you a car, right? She wasn't planning on it to happen that way. She knew, though, what kind of car she wanted, and she stuck to her guns, and she looked for the right car, and she still has it today. So that piece of it, that's your work, right? The rest of it, as some might say, that's God's work. And if you get in the way of that, you're only going to hinder the process, right? So that's my bonus tip. Always leave space for the universe to surprise you with something even better than you already imagined. Remember, you're a co-creator using a tool of unlimited possibility. So when you become hardened by your vision, you lose the chance to achieve even more than you can possibly imagine. Don't put creation in a box. It doesn't belong there. Thanks for watching this video. If you haven't yet, subscribe and ring the bell. And if you want to see more videos like this, click right here.